something that will shimmer in the sunlight, reflecting off his temple's lintels and portals, its stairs and towers, and sculpted facades. When they are finished, the laterite will be completely encased in sandstone. Simon Warwick sees an Indian influence in this approach.
Following from India, where they would find these giant rocks and carve them into temples, not having this situation in Cambodia, it's possible that they seem to create their own monolith by building it first out of rough blocks and then carving it later. So in a way, you're not looking at a dynamic building like a cathedral, but a gigantic sculpture.
To find the tons of sandstone needed to complete Angkor Wat, Surya Varman's engineers will travel far to the north to a holy landscape where the Khmer Empire began, the Kulen Hills. Kulen's great cliffs are the source of the rivers, among them the Siam Reap that fertilize the expansive Angkor Plain. They are home to the earliest Khmer temples. To honor this sacred place, Khmer artists have carved phallic symbols known as linga in the riverbanks. These icons bless the water, imbuing it with power and strength as it makes its way to Surya Varman's kingdom far below. The journey is at least 30 kilometers. The work to quarry the stone was arduous and slow. Khmer tools were rudimentary. Workers used chisels to trench the stone. Then they insert wooden wedges. When soaked with water, the wooden wedges expand and split the stone away from the block face. After teams rough out blocks, specialized transportation crews move these stones, weighing anything between 2 to 12 tons. Experts estimate that workers had to shape and transport 300 to 400 blocks of sandstone per day to meet the ambitious timeline of temple construction. Just how the Khmer transported this mountain of stone has led to decades of speculation. But some evidence is carved into the stone itself. In this bas-relief, we can see the Khmer using floating bridges and rafts to carry people and animals across water. The circles represent bamboo poles lashed together in a crude bridge, bobbing above the river teeming with fish and supporting the weight of an entire army on the move. It seems likely that the crews would have loaded the stones onto some sort of barge or raft, which was floated into one of the many channels leading to the temple site. Once on the canal system, the barge is towed by animal traction, possibly elephants or water buffalo. If, during the dry season, water levels in the canals are too low, the Khmer might block the arches of the road's bridges to create a lock, providing steady passage for the convoy of stones. At the Angkor Wat site, workers swarm all over, unloading and stockpiling the sandstone blocks.
It's also important to remember that this is a huge feat of logistics and supply as well. If you were to be standing here 800 or 900 years ago watching this thing being put together, what you would see is just vast armies of people. Elephants, cables, gurneys for placing stones into place, an elaborate system of bamboo and ropes in order to move everything into place and get it into the right spot.
The workers hurry to create temple walls from stone blocks, but they now face a new challenge, moving the stone around the site. And the moat once again proves its usefulness. Now it functions as a port. By floating the blocks around the moat, materials can be delivered directly to any side of the site.
One of the most commonly asked questions at Angkor is, what are these holes for in the stone? And the answer is they're probably designed so that you could put in a large stake of wood and then moisten it with water so that the wood would then swell up. And then it's easier on each side of the stone to attach ropes.
The pegs provide handles for workers to manipulate the stones by hand and ropes. Some experts suggest that workers made extensive use of scaffolding and a primitive block and tackle system, which would have allowed them to lift stones into position. Elephants were also used on the job site to move stones around and provide the brute force to lift the great blocks into position. The combination of great height and enormous stones must have made for a very dangerous workplace.
We don't know how many people died, how many people fell off. We don't know the mortality rate. What we do know, though, is that they were building heaven. They were building heaven on earth, and they had all the motivation needed to do that.
Surya Varman's objective to build heaven on earth meant that every detail of the construction had to be perfect. The precision with which these enormous blocks of stone are assembled is truly awe-inspiring.
The precision is actually perfect, especially in Angkor Wat. By that I mean that the contact between the lower block and the upper block and the block beside it is what we call a razor joint. It's in perfect contact for the entire surface area of the block.
Experts today believe that the Khmer builders achieved such a close fit between these huge blocks using a technique known as abrasion. Sandstone has a naturally rough surface, and when one stone is rubbed against another, possibly with water in between, the two surfaces will grind each other smooth. Amazingly, these stones are kept in place by nothing more than stone-on-stone friction seamlessly, securely, and without any mortar or cement. To the Khmer, this was particularly important because mortar would have only interfered with the perfect contact joint required for carving.
If it's a perfect joint, it acts like a monolith, like a single piece of stone, and you can carve across that joint.
And nowhere are these perfect joints more evident than in the enormous bas-reliefs.
Here, for the first time, we see a king of Angkor. His name is Surya Varman II, the Sun King, and he reigned over a huge empire with great power and great charisma.
Experts estimate that the carving occupied nearly 1/2 of the 35 years that Angkor Wat took to build.
2 or 3 levels of talent went into carving the stone, which involved the highest levels of artisans who were very prized possessions in ancient cultures like this.